this one is another brain hack, which was super interesting from the Sleep podcast. All these podcasts and links will be down below, by the way. So another study that Matthew was explaining on the podcast was they did this study on rats, like going through a maze. And as they learned the maze, they could see the patterns in the rat's brain. And for every pattern, they could make like a tone associated with it. So if they made like a certain pattern in the brain made like a certain pathway or something like that, it would be associated with a tone. And that part's not really necessary, but the point is there was a certain pattern as they were learning this maze pattern. I didn't want to say pattern and pattern, but as they were learning the pattern, there was a pattern in their brain that reinforced what they were learning correctly. And then the very interesting part was as the rats went to sleep, they saw this pattern being replayed in their brain. So they were basically learning it, reinforcing it as they slept. And now the even more fascinating part was that they were the pattern as they slept was being replayed 20 times faster as they slept than as when they were waking. So that goes to show you that the rats were learning the same mechanism 20 times faster, and that how important sleep is for learning things. And that's why a lot of times when you don't know something and they say get a good night's sleep, I think I've talked about that before, but it's sleep on it because it rests your brain and you're able to attack it, and like you may come up with it in your subconscious, or you're on a fresh brain and fresh eyes and things like that, but you're actually reinforcing it and you're actually replaying it in your brain overnight. And that also connects back to the first podcast of the creativity in the flow state, because it's kind of a brain hack in the fact that when you learn something, and not even a brain hack, but the stacking of the motivation part, because if you learn something and you end on a good note, like that they always say that's a good thing to do, is to end on a good note, just like when you were in the flow state, is that if you end on the good note and you have that positive pattern in your brain for something you just learned, and then you go to sleep on it, you'll replay that good note, positive pattern in your brain 20 times faster as you sleep. So when you wake, you're literally that many times better than when you went to sleep with that problem on your brain or that new skill. So I thought that was so interesting. Those two podcasts were very connected in the fact that that stacking motivation, you want to come back to your writing after you leave off on a good note because you'll have all this motivation to do so. And it's just better for your flow state, and you're at the end of your flow state anyway. And then in dreaming, when you learn a new skill, you practice something. If you practice it correctly, and you're learning it in your sleep, so it's a really good idea to practice things correctly, and then don't overdo it and burn yourself out and exhaust yourself. Finish on that good note and come back the next day with more stacked motivation of the pattern being reinforced over a good night's sleep.